a whole bunch of these things 700 meters away from my house.
He and his neighbors complained to Alberta's Utility Commission. Its investigators found the company, Link Global, had done no consultation or obtained necessary approvals. So it ordered that plant and another in southern Alberta to shut down. Link Global regrets the bad first impression. Stephen Jenkins is its president.
It's my fault. It's not going to take full blame for it.
Jenkins says if the company isn't welcome in the county, it'll move elsewhere.
It's unfortunate because they'll likely have to shutter that plant now, as well as, the local people that were employed there on our behalf will move the plant somewhere else so they won't have jobs anymore.
The plant was being powered off of one dormant natural gas well. To reopen, the facility has to prove it won't negatively impact neighbors or the environment. The Utilities Commission is now considering whether the Bitcoin mine will face additional penalties. Sarah Rieger, CBC News, Calgary.
And that is World Report for this hour. I'm Chris O'Neill Yates in St. John's. This is CBC News. Good morning, Manitoba. 8:10 a.m. is the time. It is Wednesday. We've got some nice sunshine popping up over the buildings downtown. 13 degrees in the city. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC. You're listening to Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, or online anytime. This half hour on the program, a fourth wave, the return of masks in indoor places. We're going to look at the ups and downs of living in a pandemic and how we can all get through it. We're going to talk to the author of The Psychology of Pandemics. Stay tuned. Also this half hour on the program, some political news to share. So Heather Wells in a moment with some developments in the race for the leadership of the provincial Progressive Conservatives. And in addition, we are going to get on a call. We're asking for your calls and your questions for the leader of the federal NDP. Jagmeet Singh will be on our program tomorrow at this time. 788-3205. Let's go to Heather with that developing political news this morning. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, former Conservative MP Shelley Glover says she intends to run for the leadership of Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party. She says she is now applying to run. Glover would become the second candidate in the race to succeed Brian Pallister. Former Health Minister Heather Stephenson was the first to declare her candidacy with the backing of 2/3 of the PC caucus. We'll hear from Shelley Glover coming up. Also, a duty to keep children safe. That's what an ethicist says about Grey Academy of Jewish Education mandating all students be vaccinated if they want to be back in class this fall. We'll hear about that in our next local news at 8:30.
Some interesting things, Heather, since we confirmed Shelley Glover is looking at applying to run here. Just reminding myself of some of her histories. Of course, former police officer, as you mentioned, resigned from the Winnipeg Police Service in 2018, citing a toxic workplace. CBC with coverage of that. And also earlier this year, she signed on as an aide at a Manitoba care home. So had some experience in that light and a long-time MP. So it'll be interesting to see what that race shapes up to be, as well as the party never having a woman, as you've been mentioning, or we've been mentioning this morning.
Well, and Bartley, he was reporting yesterday that Shelley Glover did not like the way the Progressive Conservative rules were set out. You know, how there wasn't enough time. It was such a quick jump to get into the race. So, yeah, I expect we'll be hearing more about that as well.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, to this point from our news center, Megan Ketcherson has spoken with Shelley Glover briefly this morning, and she wasn't able, Shelley Glover, she wasn't in a place to be able to give us a full interview here in the program, but we do have part of the conversation with Megan that we're going to try to get on for you this half hour, in addition to what you're hearing in the news. Right now, though, let's find out what's developing in your weather today. Pat Canoe is in with the forecast.
Well, it's gotten a little more sunny, has it, than it has in the past hour. We're expecting clouds this morning, but we're still cloudy out there, but the sun is trying to peek through. And we'll get to an 18 today, and kind of a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day. Hopefully the sun sticks around for a bit. Not much wind this morning. It'll pick up a little bit this afternoon. Northwest 25 to 30 here in Winnipeg. Tonight, mainly clear down to 8. Tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud at 20. Less wind, a lovely day. And then Friday, we could see some showers at 17 into your weekend here in Winnipeg. 22 and 21 are the temperatures. Maybe some showers on Saturday. So we are 12, a drop of 1 in the past hour here in the Peg. Over in Brandon, it's 9 and cloudy, and some reports of fog around that area as as well, and some mist. 17 today for Brandon and Thompson. A little bit chilly, 1 with some fog up in Thompson as well, on the way to an 18. Traffic-wise, Marcy, well, I'll let you know about some new construction. We have northbound St. Mary's at Carrier. There's new construction there, it's down to 1 lane, so of course that is a heavy traffic route going northbound into downtown, so that will be gummed up a little bit. We also have some construction. The northbound median lane on Kenniston at Bolton Bay is closed, and that's going to be taking place for the rest of the week as well. We have the detour at southbound Main and Dufferin, of course, we've been talking about for a long time because of the construction fence up there around that block where the old building burned last week and been torn down. If you have anything you need to tell us about stalls or crashes, we do have a stalled car, illegally parked car, I should say, northbound St. Mary's at Fermor as well, and you have to go left to pass. So if you see anything, though, give me a call at 788-3093.
And Thompson, your temperature just popped up to 5.
Whoa!
Which we're happy about, because when you were at like 1 and 0 earlier this morning, it's very stressful.
We're pleased about that. And updates at 8 minutes past. I still had the old temperature. Thank you for that, Marcy.
You're welcome. It was worth mentioning. So Thompson 5, Winnipeg 12 degrees. Well, next on the program, an extra layer of protection. Manitobans will once again have to wear masks in indoor public spaces. Just a few weeks ago, Manitoba joined other provinces in lifting its mask mandate while still strongly recommending their use. Now the province is joining BC in bringing masks back to indoor settings, including schools. This is all to slow the possible 4th wave and the highly contagious Delta variant. All of these announcements and changes just made yesterday. Dr. Stephen Taylor is our next guest, clinical psychologist and professor at the University of British Columbia and author of The Psychology of Pandemics, Preparing for the Next Global Outbreak of Infectious Disease. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
How hard is it for the human brain, after accepting new rules of engagement and shifting things, to suddenly sort of pivot and accept yet more new information?
Well, yeah, we're all creatures of habit. It's easier for us to continue habits. But then again, we're in a society where change is part of our lives. It's not like we're in a medieval society where things don't change with generations. So I think for many of us, we're expecting change, but that said, it is hard. Remember early 2020, how hard it was to get into the habit of remembering to bring your mask, and so now we're having to cultivate some flexibility here.
You're in BC, as mentioned, so you're in the same boat as Manitoba in the reinstating of the indoor mask mandate. What do you make of the change in public health orders and communication?
It just reflects the changing nature of infections. Unfortunately, with infections going up, we have to reinstate those restrictions. I think BC people are expecting that, or not surprised by it, because we have been informed from the very start if things go bad, then we will have lockdown and masks and so forth. And so this is just part and parcel of what's happening.
Things like cleaning of surfaces have stuck around, even though there's the evidence around that measure being necessary has changed. Psychologically, why do you think that might be?
Well, you know, we're raised to think that cleaning is a way of keeping ourselves safe. And initially, during the pandemic, it was thought, well, you get infected from touching surfaces, and that turned out to be not so much the case. You can get infected with coronavirus, but it's not very likely. But it provides us a sense of control, even if it's illusory. It's an illusion of control, largely. Cleaning surfaces, it helps us feel calm, and it's not such a bad thing. If people feel calm and they're still reminded that they need to do things like wear masks, this hygiene theatre of excessive cleaning, it may not be entirely bad.
I want to get to just a minute, play you a minute of tape from some people locally that have been weighing in. Now, just before the mask mandate was reinstated yesterday, CBC's Lauren Donnelly spoke with Manitobans about why they wear their masks, how they make decisions about whether not to wear a mask, what they look at around them. Here's what some people said.
I've noticed a lot of people not wearing masks, and I'm not comfortable around that because I don't know who is not vaccinated. I find a lot of people have not really been able to social distance properly, which makes me very uncomfortable. I don't want them, standing right behind me and breathing on me. So I am definitely wearing a mask for the foreseeable future, basically until I don't see any cases of COVID anymore. So outdoor markets, no problem. I don't feel the need to wear a mask if I'm outside.
Sometimes when I'm outside in a public place, I will wear a mask. They're not more rare, especially being at a table or whatever, but just anywhere where there's any kind of a density of people, I wear a mask.
Whenever I'm going somewhere that I don't know or can't control who around me is or is not vaccinated, I would rather try to protect myself as best as I can, and then also just as a respect to everybody else shopping, then I wear my mask because, I don't think that we are out of this yet. We know that masks are clearly effective because they were mandatory everywhere and no one was catching anything. So I think that it would be nice if that side of things would stick around. So if you are sick, you wear a mask. However, I don't think that that's a reality. I think that everyone's kind of itching to go back to normal and take our masks off.
Now, to be clear, just for people that are just tuning in, indoor public places, masks are now mandated. That changed yesterday, but as I mentioned before we got into the tape, that was one of our producers talking to people about their attitudes towards masks overall before we had that mandate reinstated. From your perspective, though, psychologically, looking at how we decide to do things for the greater good or for our own good, what strikes you about what you heard?
What strikes me is people are making very good points. They're thinking things through. They're not being sheeple. They're not blindly following recommendations. They're thinking, well, what is my personal risk tolerance or comfort level, and how can I manage that? I think it's good to ask questions about masks, but, keep your mind open and make sure you get your information.
How can our personal social networks have impact how we behave when it comes to COVID-19?
In a bunch of ways, but I think two of the main ways is our social networks provide social support, which is really good for because lockdown or restrictions are not very good for our mental health. And so if you can get friends and at least connect virtually or in other ways, that's helpful. The other way in which social networks are important is that we tend to hang out with like-minded people. So if you're an anti-vaxxer, you might tend to be an anti-vax communist, for example. So it's important for people to realize that the people you hang out with might reinforce your views and might keep you stuck in a particular view.
How much is a person's anxiety connected with how much they trust their